Okay, so I just had to remake this whole video because I was watching the other one and I realized that most of the time I was not even stitching on the screen. I apologize when I get too low. It's really hard for me to tell. Anyways, then I stabbed myself and then I was bleeding, and then I remembered something from my bookmaking class that I took. And I don't know if this is fact or if it's fiction. It could be a wives' tale, but our instructor said that the only thing to get blood off of a page from a book is the spit from the person whose blood it is. So that, I don't know if that's a wives' tale or not, or if it's actual truth, but I thought that was kind of interesting. So I thought I'd share that with you. Okay, so make sure that you put your template back into the original signature so that all of your signatures are even. And hopefully this time I will be on camera so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, we are ready to stitch. You will need, we have 3 signatures, and so you need a length of thread that is 1 spine length per signature. So we have 3, so we're going to do 3 spine lengths. So here's 1 spine length, 2, 3, and then you can just do a little bit extra. And if you kind of get to the end and you don't have very much, just leave the whole thing. If you have a lot of thread left, you can trim it off with scissors. But if not, just go ahead and use the whole thing. All right, threading my needle. I just use my fingernails to flatten that out to make sure that my thread can go through my eye. And then when I'm doing this, when you put your signatures on or all together, you want to make sure that your holes line up and that you don't have one flipped, because you could have, your holes could be maybe a little asymmetrical, and if you have one signature flipped, it's not gonna be as tight as if they're all lined up. So make sure you line them up when you're doing this. And I'll remind you again as we get a little bit farther along. All right, so I'm just gonna start by going in the first hole. And I'm coming out the second. I'm just gonna pull this tail so that it comes all the way through, and then hold it. I need enough left over so that I can have some space to tie. Let me turn that just a little bit. Okay, I'm coming back through the second hole. Oops, pulled my tail a little bit hard. Going into the third hole, or the center hole. And back out the fourth one. Okay, then we're just gonna go right back up to the top. So careful not to go through your thread. You wanna go to the side of your thread so that you can pull this tight later. If you go through the thread, you're not gonna be able to pull it tight. So just kind of push the thread over a little bit and wiggle your needle in there so that you're not going actually through the thread. Oops, that one went through. So you can see it went through the thread. So I'm just gonna back it back out and make sure that I'm going to the side of the thread. There, you can see it's at the side instead of going through the middle of the thread. All right, now I'm back to where I started, and I'm just gonna give these two tails a little tug and pulling it parallel to the spine just to tighten things up. Check on the inside, make sure that those are tight. You don't want to pull it perpendicular ever to the spine because that could just rip your spine all the way down. So make sure that you're pulling it parallel to the spine. I'm just going to tie this into a double knot or a square knot. And pull that nice and tight. You can leave this little tail on there if you'd like. If it gets in the way, just trim it off. Just make sure you do leave a small little tail so that you don't accidentally untie your knot. All right, we're ready for the second signature. Make sure that your holes are all lined up. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna go into the first hole right above where I left off. Then I'm gonna come out the second hole. And then here is the part that is so important that I did not show very well on the other video because I went off screen. So I'm gonna do a better job of showing you this time. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you are going to go under this stitch that is on the left hand side of the hole. And then you are going to go under the stitch that is on the right hand side of the hole. And then you are just going to go right back through that hole. I'll show you again on the next stitch, so you don't have to pause it and rewind it. Oh no. Now my thread got all wrapped around. Hold on a minute, I gotta untangle myself. There we go. Okay, and then I'm gonna go, now I'm going through the center hole. Whoops. Technology. All right, here we go through this center hole. And then I'm just going to do the same thing. So go under that stitch that is to the left of the hole. And then go under the stitch that is to the right of the hole. And then just go back through the hole on the second signature. And be careful that you don't poke through your thread. And do it on the next one. Yikes.